What if I told you that one of the greatest sports empires in history started with a handshake and a waffle iron? Oh yes, just a handshake with no money. Nike, the name that echoes across continents, splashed on sneakers worn by presidents, pop stars, celebrities, Democrats, business gurus, who's who in society, and playground legends. A brand synonymous with victory, unprecedented success, and the relentless spirit of just do it. But what lies beneath that swoosh? A messy beginning, a near collapse, betrayals, courtroom wars, and a miraculous comeback. That sounds great, right? This is not just the story of a company. It's the story of a fight for identity, of chasing greatness even when the odds say you're done. Now, let's dive into the story of this great icon, Nike. In 1962, a shy, tract-loving student named Phil Knight had a crazy idea. While studying at Stanford, Knight wrote a paper claiming that Japanese running shoes could beat German brands like Adidas in both price and performance. But that wasn't just a school project. It was his blueprint for the future. Knight wasn't your typical brash entrepreneur. He wasn't loud, he wasn't flashy, but he believed in the power of small beginnings, and he knew just the person to believe in him, his old coach, Bill Bowerman. Bowerman wasn't just a coach. He was a tinkerer, a mad genius who poured molten rubber into waffle irons to create the perfect running sole. To Bowerman, speed was a science. When Knight returned from a trip to Japan, he struck a deal with a small shoe company called Onitsuka Tiger to import their shoes to the U.S. And with that, Blue Ribbon Sports was born, the first incarnation of Nike. They sold shoes from the trunk of Knight's Plymouth Valiant. There were no fancy stores then, no billion-dollar deals, just grit, passion, and a belief that American runners deserved better gear. By 1971, the relationship with Onitsuka soured. Knight and his growing team needed to break free. They needed a new identity, a new brand entirely. They then chose the name Nike, after the Greek goddess of victory, and the swoosh, a $35 design from a student named Carolyn Davidson, a symbol of speed, motion, and freedom. The stage was set. But what came next would shake the industry. The 1970s were a turning point. Yes, a great turnaround for the new brand. Nike's first big star? Steve Prefontaine, a rebellious mustached running prodigy who didn't run to win. He ran to test limits. Pre was raw, he was fired, and Nike rode his passion like a rocket. Bowerman's waffle-soled creation, the Waffle Trainer, changed the game. Lighter, grippier, and affordable. Runners across America took notice. Nike wasn't just a brand, it became a movement. In 1979, the Nike Tailwind introduced the world to air-cushioned sneakers with the now iconic Nike Air technology. It was innovation, but wrapped in attitude. By 1980, Nike went public. Sales hit $270 million. A company that once begged to sell shoes now owns nearly half the U.S. athletic shoe market. That is huge. But success has a way of luring shadows. By the early 1980s, Nike had run a blistering sprint from a car trunk in Oregon to Wall Street spotlight. Sales were exploding, their sneakers dominated tracks and courts, and the swoosh was beginning to shine around the world. But here's the twist no one saw coming. Nike was flying so high, they forgot to watch the ground. The brand was growing too fast, yes, at an exceeding rate. Nike's meteoric rise brought massive expectations. Investors demanded more shoes, more markets, more profit. Nike responded by expanding aggressively into new lines, including apparel, basketball shoes, and outdoor gear. But rapid growth has a cost, isn't it? Products started rolling out faster than the market could absorb them. Quality slipped. Brand messaging became diluted. Their once razor-sharp focus on runners and athletes blurred. Internally, the company was in chaos. Departments ballooned, decision-making slowed. Some employees whispered that the soul of Nike, the scrappy, rebellious spirit, was getting lost under mountains of memos and bureaucracy. As one former Nike executive recalled in an interview, "We were making so much money we started thinking we could do no wrong." That's always the beginning of the fall. And then came Reebok. While Nike was focused on performance and the male athlete, Reebok saw a new opportunity: style plus fitness. And they targeted a completely different market. Reebok shoes were lighter, trendier, and they marketed directly to women at a time when the fitness boom was exploding. Aerobics became the new American religion, and Reebok was its prophet. By 1987, Reebok had done the unthinkable. It outsold Nike in the U.S. for the first time. Nike, the sports titan, the innovator, had just been leapfrogged. The internal panic was real. Phil Knight and his team were facing a brutal reality. They had lost touch with the very people they were supposed to inspire. Reebok wasn't just selling shoes. They were selling lifestyle, identity, and emotion. Nike's brand had become stale. They needed something radical to get back in the game. The lawsuit bombshell. To make matters worse, the ghost of Nike's past came knocking. Remember Onitsuka Tiger, the Japanese shoe company Phil Knight had originally partnered with? Well, that relationship hadn't ended cleanly. In the early 1980s, Onitsuka sued Nike, claiming breach of contract and trademark infringement. The courtroom battle wasn't just about money. It was about honor, reputation, and legitimacy. Nike fired back with counterclaims. The press followed every twist and turn. Though Nike eventually won some concessions, the legal war drained resources, focus, and energy. To the outside world, Nike still looked powerful, but behind closed doors, the company was cracking. The late 80s were a creative drought. Nike was still innovating, introducing new shoe tech like Air Max, but their storytelling fell flat. Their ads lacked punch. Their message was muddled. They were still speaking to athletes, but the world was speaking a new language: expression, rebellion, individuality. Reebok, Converse, and even upstarts like LA Gear were cool. Nike was reliable. And for a brand built on rebellion, that was the ultimate insult. Phil Knight's crisis of leadership. Phil Knight, the introverted visionary who once drove across Oregon, peddling Japanese shoes, now found himself at the helm of a corporate ship caught in a storm. He had grown the company too big, too fast. He was no longer the underdog, and that realization shook him. In meetings, he started asking hard questions. Who are we now? What do we stand for? And most importantly, how do we get it back? The turning point: risk everything. That's when something radical happened. Nike didn't double down on shoes. They doubled down on people. They brought in a brash advertising agency, Wyden Kennedy, a group of misfits from Portland who didn't follow the rules. Their mission? To help Nike rediscover its voice. Nike gave them just one instruction: don't sell products, sell dreams. And with that, the seeds of the comeback were planted. Nike had been knocked down hard, but this was a company built by runners. And every runner knows, you fall, you bleed, but then you get up. You pick a point in the distance, and you run toward it with everything you've got. In 1988, Nike launched 3 words that changed everything. Just do it. It wasn't just a slogan. It was a declaration of war against fear, doubt, and inertia. Nike signed a young basketball phenom named Michael Jordan. Together, they built more than shoes. They built legends. The Air Jordan 1 wasn't just a sneaker. It was a rebellion. It got banned by the NBA for violating uniform codes, and Nike paid the fines. Sales exploded. By the early 90s, Nike wasn't just a brand. It was pop culture. Bo Jackson, Andre Agassi, Charles Barkley, Serena Williams, Tiger Woods. Nike didn't just sponsor athletes. They told their stories. Stories of resilience. Stories of rebellion. Stories that made you believe you could fly. Nike's revenue soared past $10 billion. The swoosh had become sacred. But success is a strange drug, and Nike was about to face a backlash. In the late 1990s, Nike's biggest crisis didn't come from Adidas or Puma. It came from inside the sweatshops. Reports surfaced that Nike's overseas factories, especially in Indonesia, Vietnam, and China, were underpaying workers and allowing inhumane conditions. Activists protested. Celebrities boycotted. Universities banned Nike gear. For the first time, Nike's swoosh symbolized something ugly: exploitation. Phil Knight, now under fire, gave a speech at the National Press Club in 1998, admitting the company had become synonymous with slave wages. It was a rare moment of corporate humility. Nike vowed to clean house, raising wages, increasing factory inspections, and becoming one of the most transparent companies in manufacturing ethics. The fall was real, but so was the fight to redeem. In the 2000s, Nike transformed. They embraced not just sports, but lifestyle. They dropped Flyknit, a revolutionary, sustainable design. They pushed the boundaries of digital fitness with Nike Plus and Apple. They began telling powerful, inclusive stories. Nike became a voice for black athletes, for women, for marginalized communities. When they backed Colin Kaepernick in 2018, it sparked outrage and support.
While critics burned shoes, Nike's online sales surged 31% in just days. It was a gamble, and it worked.
Today, Nike is valued at over $150 billion. More than a brand, it's a belief system. From a track coach and a dreamer, to sweatshop scandals and soul-searching, to once again lead innovation, equity, and athletic culture, Nike proved that empires could rise, fall, and rise again, stronger, wiser, and louder. Because greatness isn't about never falling, it's about the comeback. Whether you're lacing up for a marathon or life, just do it. So what is Nike? Is it a company? A logo? A campaign? Or is it something deeper? It's an idea that greatness isn't a gift, it's a grind, that belief in yourself and others is worth every risk. Your background doesn't define your ceiling. Your hustle does. From Phil Knight's trunk to Tokyo's streets. From Michael Jordan to Serena Williams. From controversy to courage. Nike has stumbled, soared, and sprinted through fire, and it's still running. Nike's story isn't perfect. It's messy, raw, human. It's full of missteps and miracles, of sweat and scandal, of falling and rising again. But maybe that's the point. Because if one thing's certain, in life, in business, in dreams, there comes a moment when you're scared, when the odds say stop, when everything screams, don't. And in that moment, there's only one voice you need to hear. Just do it. If this story made you think, inspired you, or took you down memory lane, don't let it end here.
Hit that like button to support our work, subscribe for more powerful stories like this, and turn on notification bell so you never miss the rise or the fall of the next big